The sky burned orange and red as explosions lit up the horizon. Sergeant pressed his back against a broken wall and listened to the sounds of battle all around him. His team was gone. Some were dead. Some had retreated to the extraction point 3 kilometers away. He was alone now, deep in enemy territory on a planet called. Checked his rifle. Only half a magazine left. His armor was cracked in 2 places, and blood ran down his left arm from a wound he did not have time to treat. The Galactic Coalition had sent his unit here to help protect civilian zones during the territorial war between the Empire and the Alliance. But everything had gone wrong. They had pushed harder than anyone expected. He needed to move. Staying here meant death. Ran low across the open ground, his boots kicking up dust and ash. The ruins of what was once a beautiful city stretched around him. Tall buildings with graceful curves now stood broken and burning. They had built something wonderful here, and war had destroyed it in just 3 days. A sound made him stop. It was not an explosion or gunfire, it was something else, something small and scared. Turned his head and listened. There it was again, a cry, a child's cry. He changed direction and moved toward the sound. His training told him to keep going to the extraction point. His heart told him something different. He could not leave a child behind. The cry came from a crashed ship. It was not a military vessel. It was something elegant and beautiful, painted in silver and deep purple. A royal transport, realized. The royal family used ships like this. But what was it doing here in the middle of a war zone? The ship had hit the ground hard. One wing was completely torn off and smoke rose from the engines. Approached carefully, his rifle ready. He did not know what he would find inside. The main door was bent and damaged, but there was a gap just big enough for him to squeeze through. He pushed himself inside and found darkness. His helmet light clicked on automatically, cutting through the smoke and shadows. Bodies lay on the floor. Guards in ceremonial armor, their weapons still in their hands. They had died protecting something, or someone. The crying grew louder. Moved deeper into the ship. He found a small compartment at the back, its door hanging open. Inside, curled up in a corner, was a little girl. Her skin was pale blue and her hair was silver like starlight. 2 small horns curved back from her forehead, a mark of nobility. She wore a beautiful dress that was now torn and dirty. Her large golden eyes, filled with tears, looked up with pure terror. She screamed when she saw him. Immediately lowered his weapon and raised his hands. He knew how he must look to her. A human soldier, covered in dirt and blood, standing in the darkness like a monster from a nightmare. "It is okay," he said softly. "I am not going to hurt you." The girl pressed herself harder against the wall. She was shaking badly. Guessed she was maybe 6 or 7 years old by human standards, though aged differently. He slowly took off his helmet and set it on the ground. Then he put his rifle down too. He wanted her to see his face, to see that he was not a threat. "My name is," he said gently. "I am a soldier, but I am here to help. Can you tell me your name?" The girl stared at him. Her crying had stopped, but she was still trembling. For a long moment she said nothing. "Lyra," she finally whispered. "My name is Lyra." "Hello, Lyra, that is a very pretty name," smiled at her. "Are you hurt anywhere?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "Good, that is very good." Looked around the small compartment. "Lyra, do you know what happened? Where were you going?" "Home," she said, her voice tiny and broken. "We were going home, but the bad ships came and—" She could not finish. Fresh tears rolled down her blue cheeks. Felt his heart ache. This little girl had just watched her protectors die. She was alone and scared in a crashed ship in the middle of a battlefield. And somewhere out there, the forces were still hunting. He could not leave her. "Lyra, listen to me," said carefully. "I know you are scared. I know this is very hard, but I need to get you out of here. It is not safe. Will you let me help you?" Lyra looked at him for a long time. He could see her thinking, trying to decide if she could trust this strange human. Then, very slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. Felt relief wash over him. "Okay, good girl, you are very brave." He picked up his helmet and rifle, then moved closer to her. When he reached out his hand, she flinched. But she did not pull away. Her small blue fingers wrapped around his larger ones, and he felt how cold she was. "I am going to carry you," he said. "We need to move fast. Hold on to me tight and do not let go no matter what. Can you do that?" Lyra nodded again. Lifted her up, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. She was so light, so fragile. He adjusted his rifle so he could hold it with one hand and began moving back toward the exit. Outside, the battle continued. He could hear fighters screaming through the sky overhead. The extraction point was 3 kilometers away through dangerous territory. He had limited ammunition, an injured arm, and now a child to protect. But had made his choice. He would get this girl to safety or die trying. He stepped out of the crashed ship and into the burning world. Lyra buried her face against his shoulder, hiding from the terrible sights around them, held her close and began to run. The journey ahead would be long and hard. The enemy was everywhere, but somewhere in the chaos there was safety, and would find it. He looked down at the small girl in his arms. She was innocent, she was helpless, and she was now his responsibility. "Do not worry, Lyra," he whispered as he ran through the smoke and fire. "I will protect you, I promise." And in that moment, in the middle of a war that had nothing to do with him, a human soldier made a promise to an alien child. It was a promise he intended to keep, no matter what it cost him. The flames reached toward the sky behind them as they disappeared into the ruins, a man and a child running toward hope. The night came fast on. The orange sky turned dark purple, and strange stars appeared overhead. Had been moving for hours, carrying Lyra through the broken city and into the rocky hills beyond. His legs burned with exhaustion, and his wounded arm throbbed with every step. But he did not stop. Lyra had fallen asleep against his shoulder. Her small body rose and fell with each breath, and her silver hair brushed against his chin. She trusted him now, this human stranger who had appeared in her darkest moment. Would not break that trust. He found a small cave in the hillside as the last light faded from the sky. It was not much, just a crack in the rock barely big enough for them both. But it was hidden, and right now, hidden was what they needed. Set Lyra down gently against the cave wall. She stirred but did not wake. He covered her with his outer jacket, the warmest thing he had. Were sensitive to cold, he remembered from his training. Their planet was warmer than Earth. He sat at the cave entrance and watched the darkness outside. In the distance, he could see lights moving across the landscape. Patrol ships searching for survivors, searching for them perhaps. His communicator had been damaged in the fighting. He had no way to contact his unit or call for help. The extraction point was still 2 kilometers away, but he could not move through patrols at night. They would have to wait until morning. Checked his wound. The bleeding had stopped, but the cut was deep. He cleaned it as best he could with supplies from his small medical kit, then wrapped it tight. It would heal if he lived long enough. A soft sound made him turn. Lyra was awake, watching him with her golden eyes. "You are hurt," she said quietly. "It is nothing," smiled at her, "just a scratch." "The bad people hurt you." "Yes, but I am okay. Do not worry about me." Lyra sat up slowly. She pulled his jacket around her small shoulders. "I am cold," she admitted. Nodded. "I know, I am sorry. This is the warmest I can make it." He reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar. It was designed for humans, but it would not hurt her. He broke it in half and offered a piece to her. "Here, you should eat something." Lyra looked at the food with uncertainty. "What is it?" "Human food. It does not taste very good, but it will give you strength." She took the piece carefully and bit into it, her face twisted with displeasure. It tastes like dirt. Laugh softly. I told you, not very good, but please try to eat it. You need energy. Lyra ate the rest slowly, forcing herself to swallow each bite. Ate his half as well, though he was not hungry. Fear had a way of killing appetite. Why did you save me? Lyra asked suddenly. Looked at her. What do you mean? You are human. I am. We are different. Why did you not just leave me? The question was honest and innocent. Lyra truly did not understand, thought carefully about how to answer. Because you needed help, he said simply. When I heard you crying, I could not walk away. It did not matter that you are a child. You were scared and alone. How could I leave you? Lyra stared at him for a long moment. My tutors told me that humans are primitive, that your species is young and violent, that you only care about yourselves. Smiled sadly. Some humans are like that, just like some of any species, but most of us are not. Most of us want to help others. We feel pain when we see others suffer. We want to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is strange, Lyra said softly. Maybe, but that is who we are. Lyra was quiet for a while. Outside, the patrol lights continued to sweep across the hills. The night was full of danger, but inside their small cave, there was a tiny bubble of safety. I miss my mother, Lyra whispered. Felt his heart break a little. Tell me about her. She is the queen. She is very busy, but she always makes time for me. Every night she comes to my room and tells me a story. She has the most beautiful voice. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She must be so worried about me. She is, said gently. I am sure she has everyone in the Empire looking for you right now, and we are going to find them, I promise. Do you have a mother? Lyra asked. I did. She passed away when I was young, about your age actually. I am sorry. It was a long time ago. Looked out at the stars. But I still remember her. I remember how she used to hold me when I was scared, how she made everything feel safe. Lyra moved closer to him. Without thinking about it, she leaned against his side, put his good arm around her small shoulders. Will you tell me a story? She asked, like my mother does. Blinked in surprise. He was a soldier, not a storyteller, but he looked at this little girl, so far from home, so frightened, and he could not say no. Okay, he said, let me think. He told her a story his own mother had told him long ago. It was about a brave rabbit who lived in a forest filled with danger. The rabbit was small and weak, but he was clever and kind. He helped the other animals whenever they needed him. And in the end, when the rabbit was in trouble, all the animals came together to save him. It was a simple story, one meant for children. But Lyra listened with wide eyes, completely absorbed in every word. The rabbit sounds like you, she said when he finished. Me, I am not a rabbit. No, but you are brave and kind. You help others even when it is dangerous. Did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as special. He was just a soldier doing his job. But to this little girl, he was something more. You should sleep, he said finally. We have a long walk tomorrow. Lyra nodded. She curled up against him, using his arm as a pillow. Within minutes, her breathing slowed and she was asleep. Stayed awake, watching the darkness. His body screamed for rest, but he would not sleep. Not when there was danger so close. Not when this child depended on him. The night passed slowly. The patrol lights eventually moved away and the hills became quiet. Cold crept into the cave and shivered, but Lyra stayed warm against him, wrapped in his jacket and protected by his body. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, gently woke her. They ate the last of his rations and drank the last of his water. Then they left the cave and continued their journey. The extraction point was close now. Could see the valley where his unit would be waiting, but between them and safety lay open ground with no cover. He would have to be careful, he would have to be smart, but he would get this girl home. Lyra held his hand as they walked, her small fingers tight around his. She was not shaking anymore. She was not crying. She walked beside him with her head held high, trusting him completely. And knew, in that moment, that he would die before he let anything happen to her. The valley was quiet when Lyra reached its edge. Too quiet. Scanned the area below, looking for any sign of his unit. The extraction point was a flat clearing surrounded by tall rocks, perfect for a shuttle landing. But there was no shuttle. There were no soldiers. They were gone. Felt his stomach drop. The extraction window had closed. His unit had assumed he was dead and left without him. He could not blame them. In war, you did not wait forever. "What is wrong?" Lyra asked, sensing his fear. "The people I was supposed to meet are not here anymore." "Are we stuck?" Took a deep breath. He would not panic, he would not give up. There had to be another way. "No," he said firmly. "We are not stuck. I just need to think of a new plan." Before he could think of anything, a sound echoed across the valley. Ships, multiple ships coming fast from the east, grabbed Lyra and pulled her behind a large rock, pressing them both flat against the ground. The ships came into view and felt his heart stop. They were not ships. They were warships, dozens of them, painted in the silver and purple of the Imperial fleet. They filled the sky like a swarm of beautiful, deadly birds. Lyra gasped. "Those are our ships. Those are my mother's ships." "Stay down," warned. "We do not know if it is safe yet." The fleet descended on the valley like thunder. Soldiers poured out of the landing ships, hundreds of them in gleaming armor. They moved with perfect coordination, securing the area in seconds. Then a larger ship landed in the center of the clearing. It was the most magnificent vessel had ever seen, covered in gold and jewels. A royal ship. The doors opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall and beautiful, with pale blue skin and silver hair that flowed like water. A crown of crystal sat on her head and her eyes burned with golden fire. She wore armor made of white metal, elegant but clearly functional. This was not a queen who sat on a throne and watched others fight. This was a queen who led from the front. Queen of the Empire had come herself to find her daughter. "Mother!" Lyra screamed, jumping up from behind the rock. Every soldier turned toward them. Weapons rose. His blood turned to ice. He was still dressed in human military gear, still carrying a rifle. He looked like an enemy. "Do not shoot," he yelled, throwing his weapon away and raising his hands. "The princess is safe. She is here." Lyra was already running down the hill toward her mother. Queen saw her and froze. For one heartbeat, the mighty queen looked like any other mother seeing her lost child. Then she ran forward and caught Lyra in her arms. "My baby," she cried, holding Lyra tight. "My precious baby, you are alive, you are safe." "Mother, I missed you so much," Lyra sobbed into her shoulder. Soldiers surrounded, their weapons pointed at him. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply waited, his hands in the air, his heart pounding. Queen looked up from her daughter. Her golden eyes found, and they were filled with suspicion and anger. "Who is this human?" she demanded. "Why was he with my daughter?" "He saved me, Mother," Lyra said quickly. "The bad people attacked our ship. All the guards died, but he found me and protected me. He carried me through the battle. He kept me warm and gave me food. He is a good person." Queen stared her expression was unreadable. Slowly she stood and walked toward him, Lyra still holding her hand. The soldiers parted to let their queen pass, stayed completely still as she approached. He had faced enemy fire without flinching, but this woman terrified him in a way he could not explain. She was power itself. "You saved my daughter," she said. "It was not a question." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Why, you are human. We are not allies. You had nothing to gain." Met her eyes. "I did not need to gain anything. She was a child who needed help. That was enough." Queen studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved over his dirty armor, his bandaged arm, his exhausted face. She saw everything. She missed nothing. "You are injured," she observed. "It is not serious." You gave her your jacket, you gave her your food, you kept nothing for yourself. Did not reply. What was there to say? He had done what any decent person would do. He did not expect thanks or reward. Queen turned to her soldiers. Lower your weapons. This man is not our enemy. The soldiers obeyed instantly. Let out a breath he did not know he was holding. What is your name, soldier? The Queen asked. Sergeant, Your Majesty. Galactic Coalition Peacekeeping Forces. Sergeant, she spoke his name like she was tasting it. You carried my daughter through a battlefield. You protected her through the night. You brought her back to me when I thought she was lost forever. I only did what was right. And you ask for nothing in return. No, Your Majesty, your daughter is safe. That is enough for me. Something changed in the Queen's eyes. The suspicion faded, replaced by something that looked like wonder. She had expected a demand, a request for money or power or political favor. Instead, she found a man who wanted nothing but to see a child reunited with her mother. You are different from what I expected, human, she said softly. With respect, Your Majesty, most humans would have done the same thing. Would they? Yes, we are not as primitive as you might think. We feel love. We feel compassion. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. It is simply who we are. Queen looked at Lyra, who was smiling up at with obvious affection. Then she looked back at the human soldier who had risked everything for a child he did not know. Bring him to my ship, she ordered her guards. Treat his wounds. Give him food and rest. He is to be treated as an honored guest, not a prisoner. Your Majesty, I should return to my unit, protested. Your unit left you behind, did they not? Had no answer for that. Come with us, Sergeant. Let us repay the debt we owe you. The war here is nearly over. They are retreating. There is nothing left for you on this planet but death. Hesitated, but Lyra reached out and took his hand. Please come, she said. I want you to meet my home. I want to show you all the beautiful things. Looking into those golden eyes, found he could not say no. Okay, he said, I will come. Queen nodded, and for the first time she almost smiled. Good, we have much to discuss, you and I. They walked together toward the royal ship, a queen, a princess, and a simple human soldier. Behind them, the sun rose over the broken land and the war slowly came to an end. A new chapter was beginning. That was more beautiful than anything had ever imagined. Towers of white crystal rose into a purple sky, connected by bridges that seemed to float on air. Gardens filled with glowing flowers covered every surface. Rivers of silver water flowed through the city, and the air smelled like honey and rain. Stood at the window of his guest quarters, watching the sun set over this alien paradise. 3 days had passed since Queen brought him here. His wounds had been healed by medicine, which was far more advanced than anything humans had. He had been given fine clothes to wear, delicious food to eat, and a room larger than any home he had ever known. But he did not belong here. He was a soldier, not a prince. His hands were made for holding weapons, not crystal cups. Every servant who bowed to him, every noble who looked at him with curious eyes, reminded him that he was a stranger in a strange land. A knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. Come in, he said. The door opened and Lyra ran inside. She wore a beautiful dress of blue silk, and her silver hair was decorated with tiny jewels. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, so different from the scared, dirty child he had found in that crashed ship. She cried happily, I have been looking for you everywhere. He smiled despite his dark mood. I am right here. I have not gone anywhere. You have been hiding in this room for 3 days. Are you sick? Are you sad? No, I am fine. I just do not know what to do with myself. Lyra grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the door. Then come with me. I want to show you the royal gardens. There are flowers that sing when you touch them, and birds with feathers that change color. Please come. Let her lead him out of the room. He could not say no to her, not after everything they had been through together. She had become like a little sister to him, this strange blue princess from the stars. They walked through the palace together, Lyra chattering happily about everything they passed. Servants bowed as they went by and guards stood at attention. Everyone knew who was now. The human who saved the princess. The soldier who asked for nothing. The gardens were even more incredible than Lyra had described. Flowers of every color bloomed in perfect patterns, and yes, some of them actually sang soft melodies when touched. Birds with rainbow wings flew overhead, changing from red to blue to gold as they moved through the light. "Is it not wonderful?" Lyra asked, spinning in a circle with her arms spread wide. "It is beautiful," admitted. "I have never seen anything like it. Earth does not have gardens like this. Earth has gardens, but they are different, simpler." Lyra tilted her head. "Tell me about Earth. Tell me about your home." They sat on a bench beside a silver fountain. Thought about home, about the small apartment he had grown up in, about the city streets filled with noise and crowds. It seemed so far away now, almost like a dream. "Earth is a loud place," he said. "There are many people, all living very close together. We do not have crystal towers or floating bridges. Our buildings are made of metal and glass. Our rivers are brown, not silver. It is not as beautiful as this place. But you love it anyway." "Yes, it is home." Lyra nodded like she understood perfectly. "I love the same way. Even when the bad things happen, I still love it." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the birds fly and the flowers sway. Then Lyra looked at with a serious expression. "Are you going to leave?" she asked. The question cut through him like a knife. He had been trying not to think about it, but he knew the answer. He did not belong here. He had a duty to return to his unit, to his people. Yes," he said gently. "I have to go back eventually. I am a soldier. I have responsibilities." Lyra's face fell. "But I do not want you to go." "I know. I am sorry." "You could stay here. Mother would let you. She likes you, I can tell." "Your mother is very kind. But this is not my world, Lyra. I would not fit in." Before Lyra could respond, a voice spoke from behind them. "You might be surprised." Turned to find Queen standing at the entrance to the garden. She wore a simple gown instead of armor, and her crown was absent. She looked less like a queen and more like an ordinary woman, though her presence still commanded respect. "Your Majesty," stood and bowed. "Please sit." She walked over and joined them on the bench. "I apologize for eavesdropping. I came looking for my daughter and found an interesting conversation instead." "Mother, tell him to stay," Lyra pleaded. "Tell him he does not have to leave." Queen looked at her daughter with gentle eyes. "I cannot force him to stay, little one. That is not how it works." "But why not? You are the queen. You can do anything." "No, I cannot. And even if I could, I would not. People must make their own choices." She turned to, "But I would like to understand yours if you are willing to explain." Took a deep breath. "I am grateful for everything you have done, Your Majesty. Your hospitality has been more than I deserve, but I am a soldier. My place is with my unit, fighting to protect people who need protection. I cannot abandon that duty." "Even though your unit abandoned you?" The words stung but kept his face calm. "They did what they had to do. I do not blame them." Queen studied him for a long moment. "I have spent the past 3 days learning about your species, Sergeant. I read your history. I studied your culture. I wanted to understand what kind of people could produce a man like you." "And what did you find?" "Contradictions." She smiled slightly. "Your species has done terrible things. Wars, destruction, cruelty beyond imagining. But you have also done wonderful things. Acts of love and sacrifice and courage that take my breath away. You are capable of being monsters and heroes, sometimes in the same lifetime." "That is true of every species, I think." "Perhaps, but humans seem to embrace it more than most. You do not hide from your darkness. You fight against it constantly every day. You choose to be good, even when being bad would be easier. Did not know what to say. He had never thought about humanity in such terms. Queen continued, I also learned about your life, Sergeant. You grew up poor. You lost your mother when you were young. You have no family left, no wife, no children. You live alone in a small apartment and send most of your pay to charity. You own almost nothing. How did you? I am a queen. I have resources. She leaned forward. You have spent your whole life serving others, asking nothing for yourself. You saved my daughter expecting no reward. I find this remarkable, and I find myself wanting to understand it. There is nothing to understand, Your Majesty. I just do what I think is right. And that, Queen said softly, is exactly why I want you to stay. Blinked in surprise. What? You heard me. I want you to stay. Not as a prisoner, not as a guest, but as something more, something permanent. Lyra grabbed his arm, her eyes shining with hope. I do not understand, stammered. Then let me explain. Come to dinner with me tonight. Let me show you what I have in mind. If you still want to leave after that, I will personally arrange transport back to Earth. But give me one chance to convince you otherwise. Looked at Lyra, then at the beautiful garden around him, then at the Queen who waited for his answer. Okay, he said finally, one dinner. Queen smiled and for the first time, saw warmth in her golden eyes. One dinner, she agreed. That is all I ask. The royal dining hall was enormous, with ceilings so high they seemed to touch the stars. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, casting rainbow light across tables made of polished white stone. Hundreds of nobles filled the room, dressed in their finest clothes, talking and laughing as servants brought dish after dish of exotic food. Felt completely out of place. He wore formal clothes that had been prepared for him, style robes in deep blue that matched his eyes. They felt strange on his body, too soft, too elegant. He missed his simple uniform, his worn boots, his familiar armor. Lyra sat beside him at the royal table, practically bouncing with excitement. She had been whispering secrets to him all evening, hints about what her mother had planned, but she refused to give any real details. You will see, she kept saying, just wait. Queen sat at the head of the table, speaking with various nobles and officials. She had not looked at once since dinner began. He wondered if she had changed her mind, if this whole thing was just a polite way to say goodbye. Then the Queen stood, and the entire hall fell silent. My people, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. Thank you for joining us tonight. We gather to celebrate not only the end of the war with the Alliance, but something more personal and more important. She looked at Lyra, and her eyes softened with love. 3 days ago, I believed my daughter was dead. Her transport was destroyed, her guards killed. I thought I would never see her again. Queen paused and saw real pain cross her face. No words can describe what I felt in those hours, the despair, the emptiness, the rage. The nobles murmured with sympathy. Everyone knew how much the Queen loved her only child. But my daughter was not dead. She was saved by a stranger, a human soldier who found her in the wreckage, who carried her through fire and danger, who protected her with his own body when enemies closed in around them. Now the Queen looked at, and her golden eyes burned bright. This man asked for nothing. He expected nothing. He risked his life for a child he did not know, from a species he had no connection to. When I asked him why, he said simply that it was the right thing to do. Whispers rippled through the hall. Nobles looked at with new eyes, seeing him for the first time. I have ruled this empire for 30 years, Queen continued. I have met diplomats and warriors, kings and generals. I have seen the best and worst that the galaxy has to offer, but I have never met anyone quite like Sergeant of Earth. She stepped down from her platform and walked toward him. The crowd parted before her like water. Stand up, please, she said. Rose on shaking legs. His heart pounded so hard he thought everyone must hear it. Queen reached out and took his hands in hers. Her touch was warm, almost electric. "Sergeant, I offer you a gift, not as payment for what you did, because what you did cannot be paid for. I offer it as recognition of who you are and who I believe you can become." She turned to address the crowd while still holding his hands. "I offer this man full citizenship of the Empire, with all rights and privileges that brings. I offer him lands and wealth, enough to live comfortably for the rest of his days. I offer him a position in my court, as an advisor and representative of human interests." Gasps filled the hall. These were extraordinary honors, the kind normally reserved for the highest nobles. But the Queen was not finished. "Most importantly," she said, turning back to, "I offer him a place in my family. My daughter has lost her father. She has grown up with only servants and tutors for company. She needs someone to protect her, to teach her, to care for her the way you cared for her in that terrible night." Could not breathe. He could not think. This was more than he had ever imagined, more than he had ever dreamed. "I ask you to become Lyra's guardian," Queen said softly, "to be the parent she needs, not in replacement of me but alongside me, to give her the love and wisdom that I cannot always provide." Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks. She was looking at with such hope, such desperate hope, that it broke his heart. "You would be family," the Queen continued, "not by blood but by choice. You would belong here, truly belong for the first time in your life." Found his voice at last, though it came out rough and broken. "Your Majesty, I am just a soldier. I have no education, no training for this. I do not know how to be what you are describing." "You already are what I am describing," Queen replied. "You proved it when you held my daughter through the night, when you told her stories to ease her fear, when you gave her your food and your warmth and asked nothing in return. You are already a father in every way that matters. You just need to accept it." She squeezed his hands gently. "Do not answer now. Take time to think. But know this, whatever you choose, you will always have my gratitude. You gave me back my daughter. Nothing I offer can truly repay that." She released his hands and stepped back. The hall was completely silent, every noble holding their breath. Looked at Lyra. She was crying openly now, her small body shaking with emotion. He remembered how she had felt in his arms as they ran through the flames. He remembered her trust, her warmth, her innocent belief that he would keep her safe. He had spent his whole life alone. No family, no roots, no home. He had convinced himself that he did not need those things, that duty and service were enough. But they were not enough, he knew that now. "I do not need time," he said. The hall seemed to lean forward. "I accept." Lyra cried out with joy and threw herself at him. He caught her and held her tight, feeling her small arms wrap around his neck. Queen smiled, a real smile that transformed her regal face into something warm and human. The nobles began to applaud, slowly at first, then building to a thunder that shook the crystal chandeliers. Held Lyra and looked out at this strange new world that was now his home. He thought of Earth, of the small apartment that waited for no one, of the unit that had left him behind. That life was over now. A new life was beginning. Queen approached and put her hand on his shoulder. "Welcome to the family," she said. "May this be the start of something wonderful." "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything." "No," she replied. "Thank you for teaching me that humanity is something to be admired, not feared." Lyra pulled back and looked at him with her golden eyes, so full of love and happiness. "You will never be alone again," she promised. "Never, ever, ever." Smiled, and for the first time in longer than he could remember, he believed that the future was bright. The war was over. The battle was won. And in the end, a simple human soldier had found something more valuable than any treasure, a place to belong, a child to love, and a purpose greater than himself. This was his reward, this was his home. And he would never let it go.